Hello everyone, this is Alice Gao. In this video, I'm going to introduce to you the structures of a decision tree, and then talk about how to classify an example using a decision tree. Let's take a look at this example, which you saw in the previous video. You can use this decision tree to decide whether you should use an emoji or not in a conversation. A decision tree is one of the simplest machine learning algorithms, and it is the simplest use case for it is that it can be used for supervised classification. Yet, although decision tree is very simple, it's been proven to be very, very useful and widely successful. This is one of my favorite machine learning algorithms because it's so intuitive, yet it's so powerful. For now, let's restrict our attention to having a single discrete target feature. So that's the case for the decision tree we're looking at right now, because the target feature is, should I use an emoji or not, right? And there are two possible values. Yes, I should. No, I shouldn't. For the examples you've seen in the previous video, this is also the case. The one about the pet, the single target feature is which pet should the type of pet I should get, and then the values are the different pets. And the other decision tree is on which language you should learn, and then the values are the possible languages, right? These are the simplest kind of decision tree that we can think about. So what is the structure of a decision tree? A decision tree, we have internal nodes. So those are these nodes I'm highlighting. So at each internal node, let me highlight all of them just for completion. For each internal node, we are performing a Boolean test on an input feature. So you can see all of these Boolean tests because they are clearly described in each internal node, right? The top one says, are you under 20 years old? And the answer is yes or no. So this is a Boolean test. And depending on our answer, we can go to the left branch or the right branch. So once we perform a Boolean test, then we would have two edges, and each edge is labeled with the value, the corresponding value of the input feature. Here, we just all have yes or no because of these Boolean tests. In general, you might have a decision tree where at each node you have multiple branches, not just a Boolean test. And you will see an example later when we take the Jeeves data set and turn it into a decision tree. So we don't just have these binary branching in that decision tree. Sometimes we would have more than two branches from a node. Now then we also have leaf nodes, which are represented by these thumb up or thumb down in this particular tree. And these leaf nodes, each leaf node is labeled with a value for the target feature, right? Because eventually our goal is to decide which value of the target feature we should take. And so another name for the target value of the target feature is a class, right? We are asking a bunch of questions, a bunch of Boolean questions, and in the end, we want to figure out what is the class for this data point that we're looking at. Everything I've just said is also summarized on this next slide here. So I'm going to skip this slide, but you can take a look if you prefer the text version. Now let's look at how can we classify an example using a decision tree. If we have an example which includes the values of all the input features, then what do? This is a very intuitive process because we all use decision trees in our daily lives. So If we have a tree, we will simply go down the tree. At each point, we will answer the question, and depending on our answer, we'll either go left or go right. Let's do an example right now. So the example I have on the slide is that, should I use an emoji? Well, suppose that I am 30 years old, this is work related, and I am an accountant, and I'm not trying to get fired. In this case, should I use an emoji or not? Well, let's go down our tree. First decision, are you under 20 years old? No, I'm not, so I'll go right. Next question, are you over 65 years old? No, I'm not, so I'll go right again. Is this work related? Yes, it is, so I'll go left. Do you work in tech design or general geekery? Well, I'm an accountant, so no. Are you trying to get fired? No, I'm not trying to get fired, so go right. Therefore, my final decision is that no, I should not use an emoji. I hope this process is straightforward for you. Now, one last question I have on the slide is that if we convert a decision tree to a program, what does it look like? What do you think? Take a moment to think about this, then keep watching. Well, the answer is that if we have a decision tree, it corresponds to a program with a giant nested if then else structure. Right? Every time we perform a Boolean test, it's if statement checking a condition, and then depending on our answer, we either go into the then block or go into the else block, and in either of these blocks, we may have more conditions to check. So we may have another if statement nested in there. Let me summarize. After watching this video, you should be able to do the following. Describe the components of a decision tree. Classify an example using a decision tree. That's everything for this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.